You are now listening.
You are now listening
to the Black Male Educators Alliance podcast.
Lifting our voices.
Lifting our voices.
Welcome back. Season 4 of Lifting Our Voices, the BMEA podcast.
Man, it's been 4 seasons?
It has been. It has been. This is the realest one, though, man. And I'm with my guy, Curtis Lewis. I'm Michael Payne. How you feel, man?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. We got on
Santa dropped us off some new gear.
We
got a new space, So, we had to change it up for the new season. We've been blessed.
Yes.
BMEA's been blessed.
Absolutely.
Heading in the right direction, man. So, just, we're growing with the organization. The podcast is, too.
Hey, podcast, man. Hey, how you been, man? How you been doing?
Man, I would say blessed, too, man. So, for those who don't know, my son had he had eaten some food and it gave him E. coli, which then infected his kidney. So he had hemolytic uremia syndrome, something like that, affected the kidney. So we've been in the hospital for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, man. So I wouldn't wish that on anyone to have to see their child go through that, but through prayers and blessings and from the work of the doctors, he's gonna be out tomorrow.
Oh, let's go.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So we're I'm just happy he's good and we've been by his side every day. I'm blessed to be able to been by his side, because I thought about a lot in there, outside of the fact that we have a healthcare issue as well.
For sure.
A lot of new nurses, because I could tell just being in the hospital 24 hours, you can see like the night shift is 21-year-olds, Like you can tell they just getting trained or just off the training. A lot of the stuff they were talking about, luckily me and his mother were educators, and educated and kind of understood and were asking the right questions, because I could definitely see a young parent or someone, single parent being in there and not knowing what's going on and not being able to advocate for themselves or their child, man. Especially, black patients too in these hospitals. So it was eye-opening for sure, man. And I'm just, like I said, blessed and happy that we're on our way out of there.
Yeah, man. Been sending prayers, man. We've been, in constant communication every day. We family. So if one of our kids, our kids, we all, all hang out, and that's nephew. So if he's down, we all down. So it's been important to keep the prayers going and making sure we keeping you lifted. So it's nice to see you in the flesh. I feel like we've been talking every day, but nice to see you in the flesh.
I had to get out, but he's doing good, and like I said, we'll be home soon. So, like I said, I'm blessed now. I'm feeling blessed, man. How you feeling, man?
Man, I'm good, man. I'm good. BMEA been having a lot going on, man.
It has.
It's been a lot.
Been watching from the window, man.
Been watching from the window, man. We had a big, it was a conference last week that I was invited to speak on behalf of the organization, and so that was great. I was that lineup, man. I was like, there was some people we've been reading.
Some heavy hitters,
Some heavy hitters, man. I guess I'm a heavy hitter.
You the heavy?
I'm a heavy hitter.
Exactly.
It was good, man. This is joyful work for me, so I'm excited, man. Sort of left the K-12 space officially, so focusing my time. Appreciate it. Focusing my time on BMEA. And, I'm going back to my alma mater to be an assistant professor at MSU. So go green.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So I'm happy about that. But, I'm looking forward to the work that we're doing, man. Like, BMEA is on fire right now.
It is a blessing to be able to leave your job to do your purpose.
Yeah. Oh, man. It brings you joy. That's a word. That's a word. That's a
so,
word.
Congratulations. Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it.
And speaking for the organization, and now we got our fellowships coming up for the school year. Principal Wellness, PLC, Cohort 2.
So Cohort 2, man. We got, we had our interviews a couple of weeks ago. We had a number of guys apply, man, and I'm excited. I was pumped for the first cohort, and they're like special guys, and this group is like just as special.
Yep.
They already pumped. We had orientation on Monday, sort of introducing the guys to each other, and we got guys from all over the state, and we got a brother from China.
Wow.
We international.
International.
You got international.
You see, we dropped the Michigan. You see, we dropped the Michigan.
The Michigan is gone.
Yeah. Still home team.
Home for sure.
This work is bigger than just the state.
Absolutely.
And that principal wellness program is so important because now we have educational leaders in all these schools across the state with the same mindset, right? And they're supporting one another. So really what education needs in this space, you know.
Absolutely.
And from principals, we go into our teachers. So we have their career teacher fellowship. It's cohort 3.
Cohort 3.
Yeah.
See, see, you good keeping up with them. No, that's that math, and you know what I'm saying? 'Cause I'm
part of my job, you know.
Part of your job.
Stay keeping up with the guys.
This is true. This is true.
Know,
but no, that's what's up. So what we got going on with them this year?
Man, so with this new cohort, we actually going to change a few things up. We're going to get really intensive work with the framework, with the Liberating Learners framework. And what we want to do is show the impact of the framework on these our new teachers in their classrooms and their students, right? So we need to we know the impact. There's data behind it, right? There's research behind it, but we also want to show how this, like through our fellowships, the work that we're doing is making the impact live in real time.
Yeah. That's great, man. I'm looking forward to that work as well, man. I think we are, we're touching the principals, we're touching, the teachers and doing that work around that. And also, we're launching our K-12 mentoring program.
We are.
Yeah, Joe Bush is leading that work. Very excited about that.
Yep.
That work. And we want to really begin to, this work is, it's not, we got to start involving the youth in this, right? In their voice. And so we want to kick this off. We're kicking this off in a few weeks. At a couple of schools where we're going to be really engaging with our young men with the hope of sort of creating this interest in becoming teachers down the line, right? So we're going to create this sort of intergenerational approach to mentoring and really sort of kind of kick it off and get them hopefully just, pique their interest, because if we don't show them the possibility, right, or that that's teaching is an option, or they see just usually women teaching, they don't think that's an option for them. So through this mentoring program, not only will we be building some academic skills and so some life skills and things of that nature, social skills, we'll also be, really getting them sort of acclimated to what it means to be a teacher and how important this work is.
Absolutely. I think you have to be in it to know whether or not it's something for you. I mean, Mikey spent all this time in the hospital. He said to me, I might be a doctor.
Oh, wow. He
did say that. And he's always talked about construction and, all this stuff. But after going through what he's gone through, he was like, maybe I need to be a doctor, so that kids don't have to go through this. That's what he said. He's an old man, but wise beyond his years.
He got an old soul.
Yeah, but no, to the point of the mentoring, absolutely. Like giving kids an opportunity to reach back even early on, right? Understanding the purpose of community, understanding like how much fulfilling it is to help one another, help others. And then also being able to like really start these restorative practices early on too. The mentoring program is going to be able to help with that. And so as these kids go through these years of mentoring and leadership, because really what it is, and then understanding academic excellence, now we've created a space where they're more comfortable with the idea of being an educator.
Absolutely.
We've said that 100 times, that we can't ask black men or black boys to be educators in these school systems when they haven't been prioritizing these school systems. They haven't felt a part of these school systems. They felt a part of the sports, right? But, school hasn't been, for a majority of our black boys, nationwide, really the place where they've thrived. Yeah. And we got to change that.
Yeah. You're on fire today, man. You've been cooped up in the hospital.
Me and my thoughts.
Me and your thoughts. And now you get somebody else to talk to.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. That's good stuff, man. And then, we are excited about our school partnerships.
Yes.
We have three partnerships, schools and institutions we're going to be working with, and I'm excited about the work that we're going to do there too, because we're touching, when we do the whole school, we're doing administrators, we're doing teachers, and parents and students, right? And so that really creates a holistic approach to this work that we're trying to do. So it's a lot, man. It is a lot going on at this, BMEA. We got a lot going on, man.
Yeah. For so little of us, it's a tight circle.
It's a tight circle.
But we're
gonna be enlarging that soon.
Absolutely, man. And one of our our future partnerships was with my old certification program. And when we met, what did I tell you?
You did say that.
I said why I wanted to start this organization is because we need a better experience than what I had.
That's right.
And I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna make sure they do it the right way.
Okay. So now you got it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But sometimes you got to speak it, man. Sometimes you got to just put it out there.
Oh, for
put
sure.
Put it out there.
Put it out for sure. And my last thing with the hospital stay, all that space and time, there was a lot of negative energy around what was going on. You worry, right, and stress.
Yeah.
And at some point, I just had to turn the tide and just be optimistic.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna make it. Speak about people praying over us. And we appreciate prayers, and I had to keep telling people he's gonna be good.
Yeah, you did.
You had to, right? You have
yeah.
to manifest that space. So, absolutely, man. And so, it is coming to the time of year. Summer's over. Yeah. And now we got the beginning of the school year, right? And we're going into this school year, not really far removed from 2020, right? When the COVID had hit and virtual learning. So we're a year or two outside of that. Really not out of the pandemic. Yeah. Truthfully, they've lowered some of the restrictions. So I'm assuming like schools have the autonomy with the mask.
Man, the CDC keep going back. I mean,
they just like y'all on your own.
Might as well, man.
Monkeypox and that. So it's a lot going on. But we still have the effects of that, right? Yeah. And on top of the fact that there was a crisis with education before COVID. So, with this new school year starting, what we wanted to do was, what are some tips, not only just for teachers, but like for parents, right? For listeners who, they might have children or nieces and nephews going to school, or they have newborns and they're thinking of school in the future. Like, what are some tips that parents need to know who want to be involved to have a successful school year for their students?
Man, that's a great question, because I think there's a lot of different ways we can go with that, right? So I'll keep it brief, and then of course you jump in too. But I think parents we have to be, I'm using this word engage and involvement. So I'm gonna say parents need to get involved, but I want to be very particular when I say involvement, because involvement means different things. Because I know folks are working, so it's not as easy just to be at the school or as much. But I think just being involved means like asking the kids questions about how their day was, what are they learning. Also, like, I think as we think about the beginning of the school year, really having that conversation and setting goals with your kids. Like, sit down with them like, hey, what are some 2 things that you want to do well this year? Think about last year, some things that you might have struggled with. Like, what are 2 things this year that you want to improve on? Like, just as a human, as a 3rd grader, right? I'm going to do that with my son. Like, give me 2 things, Jonah, that you want to get better at as a 3rd grader that you felt you were struggling. And that allows kids to be self-reflective, right? Yeah. We got to teach them that. Yeah. And it's okay to, like, get better and not be perfect. 2, I would say, we need to be doing this more often, but I think, really engaging our kids in literature and, like, literacy in so many different ways. How do we, my son like his iPad. He's on it all the time. So how do I balance that, right? And ensuring that, like, I'm also continuing to improve on those literacy skills that I think are important. And so, like, really finding very creative ways to do that. Like, getting some of these old school games, or even putting some of this stuff on their laptop, on their iPads or laptops, that sort of keeps them engaged and giving them some time to do those things. Because here's the thing, which is why, and I'll try to stay focused on the question. We've been talking about this learning loss that's been taking place, and that's like a banned word. BMEA, we don't use learning loss because there was a lot of gain. And I mentioned this the other day at the talk, that there were a lot of laws like human loss and all those things. So I don't excuse that. I mean, I don't ignore that at all. Devastating impact on families, and some more than others, but in Black and brown families more than others. But I think it's important for us to understand what our kids gain during that time, and that's technology. Like my son, his penmanship it wasn't good before the pandemic. It's even worse now. But that dude can type way faster than I even thought about typing at 8 years old. And just being able to use a computer and technology, they're going to be so more advanced in that. So how do we build on that? So I think as parents, we got to start asking the right questions of our schools. Like, what are we doing to build on some of these other skills that are like 21st century skills, right? Like, we won't be, penmanship is important, but how often my penmanship has gotten worse because I'm writing less. Right, so we making sure our schools are shifting with the times and not just focus on some of these things. But parents got to be that voice, so they need to be able to do that as well. But I can keep going on that. So let me.
No, you're absolutely right. You hit on a ton of great points. I think just to piggyback on a few, I like for parents to be advocates of their children. I think sometimes parents are a little standoffish until parent-teacher conferences or they get a report card, and I often tell them it's way too late. Yeah. Establish a relationship with the teachers early on, right? so that there's an open line of communication, but you just don't wait on the teacher to communicate with you. Even though they should, don't wait, because this is your child, right? And your child, and you have to be the advocate, the voice of your child, and you also want to build them up to advocate for themselves at some point, depending on the age group. But, and then habits, right? Like habits are where the child is going to find success. Some kids are naturally gifted, some kids are naturally intelligent, but habits are the keys to success. And I think that, to your point earlier about like, what are we teaching the kids? Like, schools need to do a better job. Parents need to do a better job of like instilling habits with children, right? Yeah. Like, do they understand how to organize themselves, right? Do they understand how to be reflective, right? Do they understand how to better themselves and things that they like? And when they're struggling with something, are they asking for help? Are they going to the teacher, right? Are they able to express where they are struggling, right? And like being reflective on like, what is it specifically that I'm struggling with? Do they give up too easily? Those are the things that are going to impact getting a kid from a D to a B or an A, right? Where, I mean, grades are a whole nother topic, but I think the most important thing with school is that kids have to be confident that they can do well in school. That's the only thing that really matters to me.
Absolutely.
Because we don't get doctors and lawyers if kids don't think they can do school. We don't get professors, we don't get teachers and educators because they're not going to want to continue school once high school is over. And that's what I'm seeing a lot on the high school end is like, I'm just getting through this so I can be done with it. And it's just like, your learning and education wasn't a penalty, a punishment, but it feels like that for our kids, right? We got to figure out how we change that so that kids can want to learn and then want to better themselves mentally and emotionally and all those things. So definitely building habits, definitely keeping lines of communication open with the teachers. They got all these apps and stuff. I ain't going to lie. You know, even Mikey's first couple of years, I was behind on Schoology, like trying to keep up. You know, you got a job, right? Let's cut parents some slack. No, it is not easy. Absolutely. You know, managing your work, the home, and then what's going on with the child 8 hours of the day. But you want to. You need to. And so trying your best to early on, get in communication, get in contact, stay on top of those things so that you can support your child as best as possible.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, man, I think, you know, it'll be interesting to see this year. Yeah. I feel like, you know, we're still sort of in some weird version of the pandemic. Yeah. You know, we ain't quite transitioned. Or maybe we have, not sure. But it'll be interesting to see how this year goes. Like, you know, if we're going to have the closures or if people just going to, like, plow through or, you know, because I know the CDC, again, as we mentioned, are changing things weekly. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, though. But I think there's opportunities here. And, you know, there was a bunch of talk before when we were in the middle of the pandemic and they were saying, oh, you know, when we come out, we got to make some changes. There ain't no change.
And I think to the point, even if the world has came out of the pandemic, education is still feeling the effects because we still have the teacher shortage. Right? So it still feels like we're in the pandemic. And kids haven't healed mentally and emotionally from not only COVID and the loss, like the physical human loss of COVID, the being at home separated from each other socially, but also just the stress of school when we came back. So there was a lot of like mental and emotional stress that we're going to get into a little bit later in the show that we haven't addressed well. And at BMEA, we talk a lot about restorative practices, about authentic relationships, and like you aren't being authentic if you aren't supporting kids emotionally as well. You can't teach someone who's emotionally not well, right? Whose mind isn't with you in the room. So I think that's where we're kind of seeing still the remnants of the pandemic, where you know it's still emotionally like trauma going on, you know, especially with the children. And with the teacher shortage, where we want people to teach, we want people to education, but we also understand why people left. We can't advocate for a space that is not doing well by people, especially our educators, you know. And you see what some states are trying to do to compensate for that in a way. Yeah,
you got Texas, and they go to a 4-day.
Yeah, they got some districts going to a 4-day work week.
4-day work
instead
week.
of paying people more.
Yeah.
Some smaller Texas school districts are offering a 4-day week in an effort to hire and keep teachers. Good morning to the Texas Tribune's public education reporter, Brian Lopez. You found this is happening in some school districts, smaller school districts here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Which ones are we talking about?
Yeah, so I looked specifically at Mineral Wells and Chico ISD, but there are other areas that have been doing it for quite a while as well. Gordon ISD's in that general area um, that they've kind of been doing, and they're kind of competing against each other. So this has come about, school districts have started this 4-day thing. Teachers and neighboring school districts are going to those districts, so that everybody has to kind of adapt if they want to keep their teachers. And then, they're also hoping that the bigger school districts don't go to a 4-day week, because then that'll even make it more competitive.
Make it a lot more competitive because the big school districts like Fort Worth pay a lot more money than the Chico ISD and some of those smaller districts.
Correct, exactly. And, that's why big school districts like Fort Worth, like your Dallas, your Houston, aren't thinking right now of going to a 4-day week because, they can dramatically just keep on, to a certain degree, keep on raising their salaries. I spoke to some people from Houston ISD administrators, and, they said there's no intention right now. The thing is, we need this 5-day week to get kids back to the level they weren't before the pandemic. So instead, they're trying different money incentives to keep teachers.
So Florida, Governor DeSantis, he is allowing Army veterans to teach in classes without getting certified.
It's one of those things. What they say, make you say.
Right? So you're looking at all these states all over, and a lot of it's political. I'm sure a lot of it's political. You've heard.
I'm not surprised he did that though.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
They don't want to put any more money in education.
They don't, and his whole thinking around. I was just watching him the other day on CNN or something talking about the woke, like woke goes to die here or something like that, or they don't make it here.
The state of Florida is the place where woke goes to die. We are not going to let this state. We're not going to let this state descend into some type of woke dumpster fire.
To me that was some cold word stuff. Anyway, we don't do woke here.
Yeah,
the woke culture or whatever that is. So Florida. People like visiting Florida. Florida is.
And he is what he's trying to do, and I don't want to make this a politics podcast. What he's trying to do is be the diet version of Trump to still gain that support. So he is in all those lanes of all that hate and all that anti-CRT stuff, so that he can gain that footage. But it ridiculous because if you are lowering the standards for people to teach because you're not trying to put any more funding and money into teaching, you would think that people, especially people in Florida, I'm assuming majority of them are sending their kids to public school, want their kids to have a good education from highly qualified people. But I
think Ohio is Columbus, which is they said it was the sort of largest school district in Ohio. They're on strike. The teachers are on strike. I think they're supposed to start school today or tomorrow.
More students across the country returning to school this week, and that's highlighting a growing crisis with teachers. There are simply not enough of them right now. Government figures show that about 300,000 teachers left the education workforce, left the profession since February 2020. That would be when the COVID pandemic began. And in states like Mississippi, Florida, and Nevada, they've been hit especially hard by these shortages. Columbus, Ohio, meanwhile, the state's biggest school district there, is opening the year this morning with the teachers on strike. You see the pictures there. Elise Preston has made her way to East High School. That's in Columbus. Elise, good morning. Why is this happening there now?
Tony, good morning to you. The school board and teachers union have been negotiating for months without success. This ongoing strike means no one will be in class here today. Students will begin the school year online, with many taught by substitutes.
Teachers in Columbus have been on strike since Monday, after the vast majority of the union's roughly 4,500 members voted to reject the latest contract offer from the city's Board of Education.
What do we want? What do we want now?
It marked yet another failed negotiation. After 22 meetings since March, the union claims Columbus schools are in a state of disrepair, from missing ceiling tiles to lead paint to water leaks.
We will continue fighting until we have safe, properly maintained, and fully resourced schools in every neighborhood.
The school board says it's committed to addressing those issues, but insists they can only be solved with more taxpayer dollars, not a contract with teachers.
What goes in the contract doesn't actually solve that problem.
As the unresolved negotiations force a virtual start to the school year, the teachers union is calling on families to honor the picket line by boycotting remote class.
We're starting off how we did with COVID.
The conflict has put students like 16-year-old Inaya Broom, a senior at Eastmore Academy High School, in a tough position. She told us she'd rather be in person, but supports the strike.
We started off school with no air, no heat. It's embarrassing compared to these other school districts. Our school has been the same for like 50 years.
You're laughing.
Because my grandma went to the school and she said the same thing. Like, why does it look exactly the same?
Her mother agrees, but worries about how the disruption and more remote class could take a toll on some students.
I stand by the teachers, but this being the beginning of the school year, I think was just terrible for the kids.
And you can hear a lot of supporters honking for this ongoing strike. As it continues, the district has set up 25 running signs for students to pick up free meals. Meanwhile, the teachers union and school board head back to the bargaining table this afternoon.
They on strike for similar things. They want, the fact that this is interesting because I mentioned this last week in a conversation with some folks. Like here in Detroit, when it's too hot, schools got to shut down because we don't have air conditioning. That's one of the conditions, but they want to be mad. They want to make sure that it's met before they get back into the classrooms. Like these schools don't have air conditioning in 2022. Yeah, bare minimum. Like that. It's just that's like the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Like and a lot of these schools, y'all know y'all been in these schools. They don't. The windows don't open up. And so you expect to have people in spaces where there's no air conditioning. Like that's like inhumane. Those are like basic conditions like for humans to survive. And they're protesting that. It's not just that. It's, of course, teacher pay. They want to increase. They want to make sure music and art and all the PE and all the important other subjects, content is being brought into the school. So it's like, these are like, they're not saying like, pay us $40,000 more. Like, that's not what people are arguing about. Like, it's just that's like basic stuff. Like, bring PE, art, and music back. Like, put some air conditioners in our schools. Let's do, like, it is unbelievable to me in 2022 that people are still fighting for that. And I was just finding out, too, they were saying, if you include inflation, over the last, 10 years, teachers are probably making, they're like $20-something more. It's something along those lines. Oh, yeah. Like, that's like, what?
Yeah. It is ridiculous. It has been a slow bleed of the educational system in this country. It has been going on for a while, We'll probably do a whole nother podcast.
We will do another podcast.
To get on that, because you're absolutely right. And what I've always said is that, like, the people, not just the teachers, the people need to be more up in arms about it. The people,
I agree.
Your children go to these schools.
Absolutely.
Your children go to these schools. And not only that, but the people that you live in the neighborhoods around, the people that you have to interact with, them kids that you think are stealing your cars, they go to them schools.
Absolutely.
So if we want to improve the community, we want to improve the society, the cities, we have to improve the schools. And the money is there. The government has the money. I always want to reiterate that your taxes do not have to increase for your schools to get funded. They don't. They don't. We can take down one fighter jet and fund that whole district. But
I was like, because you're gonna get me fired, then the conversation gonna turn. We're gonna start talking about some like.
So
we're gonna talk. We're gonna make that one of our topics coming up.
We will. I'm gonna put it on the list. We were talking about getting ready for school. Let's get it back to teachers, right? So we talked about how do we get parents ready for school, teachers, school starting, or it has already started in some states. Shouts out to all our viewers in other states whose school's already started. Tips for them. What do you got for your teachers starting these first couple of weeks?
One, I'm gonna tell them just like self-care. Like I mentioned this before, man. Person on the talk I did last week asked the question like, how do we take care of ourselves while we're doing this? Find time throughout. Like, take care of yourself, and this is what I mean by that, right? Take a time out, 30, 45 minutes, an hour a day to yourself. And I know some like, I can't do that during the school day. Get it. if there's like, first of all, the fact that teachers don't have lunch, if in some schools don't like, they have to like monitor lunch is like ridiculous. But if you get a lunch break, which is the fact that I'm saying, if you get a lunch break, right? If you get a lunch break, leave, go sit in the car. If you can, like, just like that is your right. Sit in the car, close your door, cut your light off, and just sit and eat in peace for the 30 minutes. If you, for whatever crazy reason, you can't do that during the school day, on your prep or whatever, then find time to do that right after school. Like, just being very thoughtful of how you're taking care of your mental and emotional space. And then I think give yourself grace. And I think being like figuring out and going back to why am I doing this, and centering yourself around joy and figuring out what's going to get me back to being joyful or create that joy that I want. Because I mentioned it is on Monday, I was talking to the school of teachers, and I was mentioning to them, I said, how many times, you want to wake up and you're not really happy about where you're headed and where you're about to go do. You don't want to get like, you feel like, you walk in with attitude, you walk in drained. But like, imagine waking up and knowing I'm about to go to this school, I'm about to rock it because I have joy. I'm about to create that space in my school, in my classroom. I'm going to go in here and engage these kids in ways that I know how, and I don't care what they're asking me to do. Like that gets you hyped. Like you get up and you be ready to go. Like, let's go to work, right? Yeah. But when it's not and you're not happy, you go to work and like the kids feel that. And then you create and deliver a dry lesson or not as engaged as you want to because you really are not happy. So I think figure out what that joy is and why you decide to become a teacher and go snatch that back and go do that. And like, it's easy for me to say that, but go to hell to anybody telling you that that's not important. Yeah. Like there's schools. Here's the thing. There's the one positive thing. There's some, teachers got some leverages, like a little leverage now. Like, you don't want this ain't what you're about at the school. Okay, let me go over this school. Like, there's somebody who needs somebody. On my Facebook is blowing up around like, I need this teacher, I need this teacher. People are like, go state what you are and what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. And if that school ain't willing to do that, go. Yeah. Let me stop.
Go. You made a really good point. Teachers have a little more leverage in the space. But I think everything you said, not only does that apply to teachers, it applies to everyone.
Oh, absolutely.
Everyone needs to take care of themselves. And what the word you just gave was really good advice to administrators, helping them help their teachers take care of themselves, right? And then also just being a human being.
Yes.
Right? Be a human being with your teachers, be a human being with your students. Yeah. So that's a very good point. I would only like to add, we talk a lot about building culture in the classroom. We talk a lot about building relationships, and I often find that teachers don't know what that means. People don't know what that means. Part of it might be because they don't see those kids as human beings, as relationships to be built with. So it's work, and they're treating the kids as work, right? Instead of the kids as human beings who are in this world living with you, who you can be happy to see every day. And you don't show up happy, they see that. So in these first 2 weeks, yes, build the relationships, right? Authentically, like you should generally want to know these people that you're going to spend 9 months with. Every day of your working career, you're going to
180 days
with
in
these
some
kids.
spaces, right?
Get to know them. And not only get to know them, but like build a positive relationship with them. Build a positive relationship with them. You know what I mean? Like, start off on a good foot, right? Have some things that y'all can say y'all have in common, right? Start a conversation, like find a pinpoint, right? Share something with them so they know a little bit about you. Be happy to see these kids.
Be happy.
Figure out what they like. You know what I mean? Like it's only going to benefit you. Bring in. I used to bring fruits and stuff to the classroom that I was planning on eating, but I didn't eat because I gave it to kids. But it benefited me. You know what I'm saying? Because they now there was like, oh, I trust him. He's looking out for me. Like, and I know they need it more than I do. Right? But how much did that save me from having to deal with a kid talking about my stomach hurts in class? Or they trying to like get up and go to the bathroom every 5 minutes because they hungry. You know what I mean? Like you solving your own problems.
Joy, man.
You solving your own problems, man. Joy. So definitely build these relationships. Take care of yourself. And we talk a little bit about in our fellowships and framework for sure. But build the routines and the procedures, the things that you want kids to do. Start that now. Have them start practicing now. Right? Practice makes perfect, and it doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better. But have the kids practicing the things that you want to see them do for the year, so that by the time you get to the end of the year, they're just doing it.
Yeah.
It's just a habit forming, you know. So that's definitely the advice we want to give. When you build these authentic relationships and you starting to see the kids starting to share vulnerable pieces with them, you're going to start to see some of this trauma that they bring in, right? And there is something around understanding like how do you respond, right? And how are you informed on like what that means for you into building a better relationship so that kids can not only heal and like work to heal, but start to build themselves academically, right? Because that oftentimes stands in the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Of our kids' academic progress, and we don't ever address it.
Yeah.
We just say, "Oh, our kids are scoring worse than white children." I wonder why. Right outside of the biased assessment, I wonder why we're not addressing any real issues. And so,
man, we've been giving these nice teacher tips. Like, you know, if you want to get more, like, this is what we do. So, like, reach out to us. This is the work that we do that we're passionate about. But, you know, the school year is starting, man. Like, this is the first podcast of the year, of the season. Like, I'm just, like, super, man, like, excited that my little nephew is doing well, that you get to see you, that you're doing well. And his mom is doing well, man. Shout out to y'all for holding it down, and just, you know, shout out to God.
Yeah,
you know.
Man.
So, but man, as we close out, man, let the folks know what's next with BMEA.
So, you know, like you said earlier, we have our fellowship starting soon. I'm really excited about all the work we'll be doing with the principals and our new early career teacher fellows. We've already started our work in the schools, our 2 new school partnerships, so shout out to them. And then shout out to, you know, Urban Teachers we're working with very soon. You know, we're ready to attack the school year and get these schools off to a good start. Our next podcast date will be September 8th, right? So look out for the next podcast. If you've missed any of the old episodes, we're on YouTube. You can find it on our new website, blackmaleeducatorsalliance.org. Make sure that you follow us on Twitter. We're back on Twitter doing our thing. Follow us on Instagram. Keep up to date with what we're doing in all our schools. Facebook as well, BMEA of Michigan, Black Male Educators Alliance. And LinkedIn, absolutely. Because if your school needs some professional development, if your school, anything like that, reach out to us so we can start that conversation, and we would love to help.
All right, man. Hey, let's get it.
Let's get it, man.
Right,
see you next time, brother.
You are now listening.
You are now listening to the Black Male Educators Alliance podcast.
Lifting our voices.
Lifting our voices.